All right, and welcome back to Think Like a Leader. Today's guest is Dennis Mellon. Dennis has lived leadership in two different worlds where standards are at the highest. First is the Air Force, and then two is commercial aviation. He's a retired Air Force lieutenant colonel. Thank you for your service. He's an Air Force Academy grad, and he spent 28 years at Alaska Airlines as a fleet captain, leading 650 pilots and 40 instructors. He's also the founder and the CEO of Full Throttle Leadership, and he's built his work around helping leaders connect culture to vision, kind of without the fluff, without the BS that we kind of sometimes see. So today we're going to be talking about pressure, we're going to be talking about standards, and we're going to be talking about how leaders actually think when these things kind of get a little bit chaotic. So Dennis, welcome to Think Like a Leader, man. I'm glad we can make this happen.
Yeah. Thank you, Dorian. I appreciate the intro, and it's great talking with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to start from the origin, as I do with everybody. Where did your leadership identity get formed first? And I mean, like before the titles, before the rank, like where did it actually start for you?
Well, my father was in the Air Force too, so I had a lot of leaders to set examples for. So I kind of got interested in aviation at about age 10, and I went to the Air Force Academy, and that was probably the biggest influence to leadership. We spent a lot of time in different courses. We actually went to classes like 5.5 days a week. Saturday mornings were always reserved for some sort of military leadership strategies or whatever. Uh, so Saturday mornings were pretty much taken up.
Oh, nice, man. It's funny. I actually went to VMI for a little bit.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, I was there to play basketball, but I did, we have to do the whole military thing, and I actually chose Air Force to go into if I were to go. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't going to commission. I would be very honest with you. I would be, for you to serve and do what you did, there's a different wiring I think you got to kind of have. And at the time I was a kid, I didn't think I had it. So kudos to you, kudos to your dad, kudos to anybody that is serving in our Air Force or any of our armed forces right now. Because
You have
it is
to
a
you have to chart your own course, right?
100%, 100%. So it sounds like it was family, your dad being in it. Uh, was there any other things that kind of shaped your standard early? Like, was it mainly kind of just the household you lived in? You'd say.
Well, it wasn't so much that the household was run like military or anything. It's just the influence and admiration of the people that my dad worked with, and kind of noting how they handled people and things. Uh, One of the biggest influencers I had was I didn't start out as a fleet captain. One of the first leadership positions at Alaska that I had was as an assistant, and one of my good friends was the fleet captain at the time, and he set a heck of an example. I have to kudos to Tom Kemp.
Yeah. Okay. So, what was the first real leadership responsibility that you had? Was it the fleet? Like, what would you say is the first one that you had, where like you felt like the consequence of like if I didn't do this right, something's gonna go wrong.
Well, I think when I first upgraded to aircraft commander in the Air Force, I had a crew of four, occasionally a bunch of enlisted maintenance personnel when we would deploy to different areas. I had to be in charge of anywhere from the minimum of four up to 15, 20 people. And it taught me how to, um, it was a tight group. It wasn't like anything had to be real formal in any, as far as authoritarian or being the hard ass or whatever. But it did teach me how to manage people and to manage the periodic uh, dust ups that would happen. Things would happen out of the ordinary, or plans had to be adjusted. Even in flight, decisions had to be made. So there was a lot of. It's not like where you can sit back and have time and think about making a decision. in an airplane, it's going 400 miles an hour, so it's not like you can pull off to the side of the road and say, "Hey, let's think this over," you know?
Wouldn't that be nice though?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you could just pull
"Out,
over.
I need to fix this, engine fire," right?
Yeah, just stop in the middle of the air. Just that would be silly, man. That would be silly. What did that teach you about people though? Because you immediately got put into a position where you're now working with a lot of people. It wasn't just like you're just looking after 4 or 5 people. Like you had a group of people that you had to like work with and lead. What did that teach you about people fast?
Well, most of the time it was how to get inputs from everybody, how to make decisions that the group all bought into. It didn't necessarily have to be my personal decision. It was a consensus sometimes. Sometimes it was here's all the options, and I'm going to pick this one. But on occasion, there were, especially when there was safety involved, we're going to do it this way because I'm the aircraft commander. I'm
Yeah.
the head cheese.
No, elaborate on that though. Like, give us an example of like a particular situation where you had to get the inputs because I know there's a lot of leaders right now that struggle with the receiving feedback piece
Right.
and then altering course, right? Because a lot of leaders sometimes are in their particular regimen. They have a way of doing things. So give us an example of like what that actually looked like in real time.
I was actually writing about this very topic. I've started another book here on leadership, and one of the anecdotes that I tell is there was a time where we had to deploy from South Carolina, or I'm sorry, North Carolina to Germany, and bring 4 fighters along with us. And along the way, we had to also receive fuel as we were given fuel to. I flew refuelers. Uh, we had to give fuel to the fighters all the way over, which ended up being 10, 15 refuelings over the period of time. But we also had to receive fuel from another tanker. Well, as the flight developed, um, we had to divert for some thunderstorms. And you start thinking, okay, that put us about 10 minutes behind, which is not much for one airplane, but it was for 5 airplanes. And from
Uh,
then on, every scheduled refueling was late and took more fuel than was needed. And at about 1/3 of the way over, we started looking at this and goes, you know what? We're not going to be able to go all the way to Germany. We're going to have to divert into Britain. And then we had like 3 or 4 hours there where we're all trying to figure out how can we save fuel? How can we keep track of it? Can we meet? There was a tanker that was coming from England to meet us as we're going eastbound. Uh, could we get them to extend towards us and give us the fuel early? All these things, and we're figuring out fuel flows and closest divert bases. Meanwhile, having to keep those fighters fully refueled because there's not very many diversion places over the Atlantic. You got Iceland, you have the Azores. Long story short, um, all these inputs, we finally were able to reach our diversion place in England, and the fighters got to continue on to Germany. We landed with emergency fuel, and we came to find out that the fighters actually were overweight and had to dump fuel before
wow.
they landed. So we could have certainly used that extra fuel. But getting inputs from all the crew members and what we needed to do. There was a lot of pressure there, 3 or 4 hours, where there was a lot of different uh, inputs and doubts as to whether this plan was going to work better than that plan. So a lot of things had to happen.
Yeah. No, man, first off, you don't, as a just normal pedestrian like myself, I would have never thought like that is like a plan of attack on going from Carolina to Germany, like having to have all those refuels and things like that.
Well,
What
they always show it on TV as uh, you just get in an airplane and you fly to the Middle East, but there's typically 5 or 6 refuelings for something like that.
yeah. Wow. Wow. How did that shape you when it came to getting it? Because I'm sure that, had a lot to do with how you move forward because that's such a, you know, I don't want to say like it is a chaotic situation, even though it's like 10 minutes off. You're
Yeah,
talking about fueling over
yeah,
a
yeah,
period of time over the Atlantic Ocean,
yeah.
right? Like
Well,
it's
it was 10 minutes off for all the other 4 airplanes too. Um, what it what it what it brought to mind was the need to open up and to get options from people, things that you hadn't thought about. It needed to be. Of course, there's hours of sitting there going, "Is this going to work? Is this not going to work?" Um, it's just uh, it's tough when you're in that situation. And I look at it as kind of like in baseball. Once it's in the scorebook, nobody goes back and says, "Hey, we need to change that single into a double." Yeah, you can't change the scorebook.
yeah, no,
Well, same thing in a flight. Once it's happened, it's in the scorebook. There's nothing you can do about it. What are we going to do right now? And I tend to use the acronym WIN. What's important now? And
mm,
WIN spells win, right? What's important now so that we can win this moment?
what's important now? Wow.
I didn't
Yeah,
know I
that
was going
that's
to. I didn't know I was going to be a professor, and you were going to take notes.
no, listen, I'm a note taker, and
Yeah,
I know my listeners are as well where, I tell them not to just like write down what the word is, but like write down the thought you had
right,
when you
right.
heard it. Because I think that's how you kind of put it all together, because when I hear that, what's important now, as you said, and you kind of alluded to it, it's like that is a winning formula.
Yeah, yeah,
Thinking about the thing that is necessary, not necessarily what you want, right? A lot of times that has nothing to do with what you want, but what's important, what's
yeah.
necessary.
Whatever's
Is it moved
happened is in the scorebook. Take the lesson. Don't dwell on it. You got to be moving forward. Take the lesson because every failure is a lesson and one step forward to success is the way I look at it. So
100%?
I
Yeah.
don't be afraid to fail at something.
Yeah. You got to go through failure to get to
Yeah,
success. You
yeah.
got to go through it. All right. So that gives people the who. And so now I want to jump into the how you make decisions when, as you said, it is a bit much. And we talked about the input. And right now you've led in the Air Force, you've led in airline operations. What carried over from Air Force to the airline operations? And then what didn't? Like what didn't translate from Air Force to airline operations?
Well, in airline operations, you had a more diverse group, and I mean diverse thinking group. Different ways of thinking about, it. And you couldn't. It seemed like in the Air Force, everybody was on board with the mission. There's a lot of enthusiasm. I guess what I'm getting at is the culture was when what's important now? How do we move forward? How do we take that next step? Don't worry about personalities. Don't worry. We had conflicts. Don't get me wrong, but don't worry. What's the mission? And if you didn't fit in with that culture, typically you didn't stay in the Air Force for very long. You'd do your minimum, and then you would be gone. But as the teamwork aspect is what changed. I worked for 4 different airlines in my career. Alaska was the primary one about for 28 years, but 3 other ones, and they all had different cultures, and some of them were not. I wouldn't call them toxic, but like one in particular had gone through a downsizing when I first started working for them, and everybody was hunkered down into their silos, taking care of their own business, and communications was lost. Well, um, the Air Force typically you don't downsize. You got your unit. You don't have to worry about people quitting or people uh, um, making career changes and leaving at any. There was a steady supply and everybody fit the culture for the most part. Um, but in this culture, like I said, when I first started working there, I go, nobody's talking to each other. I had to go from me to my boss to their boss, and their boss to them. And unbeknownst to me, I started this, I started fixing this, unintentionally, but I started what I call a Friday lunch bunch, where a bunch of the directors and, department heads and I would go out to lunch. And, yeah, they tended to be a little bit long lunch on Fridays, but, the important thing is we didn't necessarily talk about business. We, got to know each other. You know, Francine's got, 3 kids in college, she's struggling to make payments, and Bob's got 2 parents in long-term care, and he's struggling with that. Those have an effect on your work. But as we started to know, like, and trust each other, we started noticing that no longer were we going through the boss route. We were talking back to, we broke the silos down, and we're talking directly to each other. And so we, on some of the key performance indicators in the company, like in an airline, typically it's on time performance, baggage loss, and passenger satisfaction. We noticed a big jump, all because we started working together better. That's what I think it was, and that wasn't due to me. I just happened to be the one that started the lunch bunch. Now, the coordination really made a big uptick because we emphasized getting to know, like, and trust each other again. Break those silos down.
Yeah, man, and I appreciate you sharing that because I
Well, it's a
think that's something.
long-winded answer, right?
No, because it touches on what I wanted to talk about next, and which was culture, right? Because most people talk about culture like it's just this vibe or, yeah, we're feeling each other. But I think you broke it down in a great way where you talked about growing relationships with the person over the employee. And I think it's like a nice reframe for anyone that's listening. It's like knowing that Francine has 3 kids, knowing that Bob has his parents on, in care, right? I think these
Right.
are important things to know because
Well, they're certainly
now
affecting their work, yeah.
exactly. And I think when as a leader, when you're then now looking at the work, you can now versus saying, "Hey, Bob, you gotta keep up with the work," you can say, "Hey, Bob, how are your parents doing?" And that's a different conversation, right? That person now cares about me.
Or
And
or or he has to, "Yeah, I need to take the afternoon off. My parents are moving to a different facility." Do it.
yeah,
Now
go.
he feels like, "Oh, okay, I can do this without, uh, affecting, my work." And then later on, they're gonna feel obligated to help somebody else, instead of, "I'm just taking care of my stuff."
Yeah. In your words, what is culture actually made of?
Culture, like you alluded to just a minute ago, is not easily measurable. It's not like, you don't slap a bunch of posters up on the wall. This is our mission statement. It means more than that. It's how we work on a day-to-day basis, how we help each other, how we communicate, how we provide clarity and alignment within the company, how we align your goals with the company's goals. And it's not easily, it's not just one thing; it's everything. It affects everything, and and it doesn't take much to destroy a culture. If a if a leader's caught lying or something like that, that can uh, destroy the culture overnight. It's important to develop that culture where people feel engaged. I think there's an interesting statistic out, Gallup poll or a business poll, that says disengaged employees cost you 18% of your payroll in lost performance. And you know what? It doesn't appear on a financial statement, but if you can develop that culture, start engaging them, imagine an 18% increase in performance, or 18% on your bottom line. That's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is. It is. What would you say are some of those you've already kind of talked about a behavior that would break a culture, right? Lying. Lying is
Right.
a
Yeah.
huge culture breaker.
Yeah.
What would you
Sure.
say are ones that make a culture strong, like behaviors?
Well, I think I alluded to making sure that you're clear on your mission. One of the ways of doing that is every time something comes up, a project or something like that, the question that a leader should ask is, how does this project contribute to our mission? Or on the flip side, do we need to change our mission so that it includes this? And then what do we see as our vision? What are our principles? And these should be invaluable. You shouldn't, every meeting, there's a story about Doug Conant that used to be at the CEO at Campbell Soup. And every meeting he repeated their mission statement, which was provide quality. So in other words, you repeat your mission so that everybody knows whatever we're doing uh, is contributing to that mission. And it's up to the CEO and the C-suite to change that mission if it needs to be. But every project team should have a mission statement and how that mission statement contributes to the company. And if everybody is seeing that constantly, then they can see where they fit in to the overall plan and what their contribution is to it. Because we've all heard this. People don't quit jobs because of money and things. Typically, they they quit because um, they're working for bad bosses or it's a bad culture. You know.
And I think first off, Doug's a genius for that. I just have to give him his credit
Yeah.
because I think about, and if we think about it in an aspect of like a small business owner or a entrepreneur looking to hire for the first time, or even a team in corporate, say like a new manager walking into a new team, if he aligns or she aligns everyone with the mission, the values and the principles, literally every single time that they meet, it will allow them to understand that, oh, first off, they believe in this.
Yeah.
That's number one. It's a genuine belief, and people follow people that are genuine and that believe in things. And then two, they now know how they should be thinking when they go up to the leader or when the leader comes to them, because 9 times out of 9, they're going to ask him, hey, does this align with our
Yeah.
mission,
Well,
vision,
if
and
I'm going to
principles?
initiate something, if I'm going to initiate something and the boss has to approve it, you bring it in and you say, okay, I'm going to initiate this project and it contributes to mission in this way instead of, oh, I want to do this. I worked I worked with a airline where um, people were on all kinds of projects doing different things. And I asked them, do all of these contribute to the overall mission? And it goes to what Steve Jobs, when he took over uh, Apple the second time, the people were all over the place. They probably had started with the driverless cars and this and that. And he said, "Look, we're gonna bring all these projects together. How do they contribute to the three things we want to work on? Which were desktops, the iPod. I forget what they all were, but he brought them all back in, and that's why all the energy was spent on developing those three or four products that they're putting out. And that's why they were so good instead of everybody all over the place. Hey, this is a cool project. This is a cool project. He brought them all back together. And that's incumbent on the leadership to make sure that mission statement is constantly reinforced in front of everybody. It can't be, like I said, it can't be something just that's put up on the wall.
Yeah, it's such a great way to set the standard, without being like the person that's always correcting people. It's
Yeah, yeah,
it's a
yeah.
standard that says like, hey, look, if it aligns with this, 9 times out of 10, we're good to go. Unless there's something that
Well,
it's like it that we can't do, like we
yeah.
literally can't do, you know?
Think about it in this way. If it's not micromanagement, I don't have to be involved. If Dorian knows what he's
True.
doing, he can take initiative to develop or this process, this project, because he can look directly at the mission statement and say, this project supports this mission statement. Now there's still going to be some approvals and but he keeps you from micromanaging and it allows people to initiate some things.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. I want to touch on this too. I know you're certified in athletic mental performance, which I find to be super awesome. I
Yeah.
think that's because I'm a former athlete, right? So, and I wish I had you my freshman year of college, right? Because I know my mental wasn't there. But I want you to translate that for leaders here.
Well,
When
let's.
that pressure hits, what do you first do mentally?
I'm gonna probably beat this topic to death, but one of the ways that, especially with athletic teams, I implement or have them implement the MVP program. Not most valuable player, but what's your mission? What's your vision? And what are your principles? And once you've established that and keep it in front of everybody, it works for business and athletes. Keeping that in the forefront. Hey, I'm goofing off over here, and I'm not doing drills, or I'm not pumping iron in the weight room. I'm not getting better. I'm just spinning my wheels. How is that contributing to your mission of I want to play college ball, or I want to be a professional, or I just want to be the best I can be at the high school or college level? Um, and I'm beating the topic to get to death, but I can't tell you how important it is to have that goal out there in mind. Think about the Olympic competitors right now. How much time they've put in just to go in and do like a 3 minute figure skating,
Even.
or
Yeah,
practice on their slalom skiing or something. Hours and hours and hours, and no wonder when they don't get the results that they're looking for, um, they get disappointed, but they recover and they're right back at it. They'll be right back at it in a few weeks. They might take a couple of weeks off, you know.
yeah. What's the quickest way that you see leaders spiral under pressure? Like, what are ways that you see in your day that where it's like,
That's real easy with the honesty and integrity part.
yeah,
The next probably biggest thing is micromanaging. You've got to be able to train your people to where they feel comfortable making decisions that you're going to approve of, and then just making sure that everybody upholds the principles that you've decided in your group, whether it's a company or your project team, is making sure um, everybody's aware of what it basically boils down to, making sure you're connecting that employee, that team member, with the team's purpose or the team's goal. How do you that and when you fail to make that connection, that's when you start getting the deviations. And Doug Conant's example is perfect there. Every meeting he repeated the mission, the start of the mission. Here's and it was it wasn't just a poster on the wall. It was something that was at the forefront to uh, get direction with every single thing you do. If you want to be a college athlete, you want to be a professional athlete, everything you do from sleeping to eating to working out and practicing has got to be oriented towards that goal.
I love that. I love that. That's such a good way to like reframe it. It's like you can individualize that, and then you can also put it in a team setting. You can put it in a business setting, which is why I think that's an awesome framework. And again, to our listeners, I want you to be clear. Like when you write these things down, write about what you thought about as well. I think that's very important because I think this is a huge takeaway that I do not want you guys to miss that are listening. I do
Imagine
not want you to
imagine your
miss.
employees on Monday morning being able to say to themselves, "I get to go to work," instead of "I have to go to work,"
Yeah.
or "I'm collecting a paycheck. No, I'm excited about going to work." You know,
Yeah.
that's the job of a leader.
It's a different mindset. It's a whole different frame, and
Yeah.
I know your lane is connecting culture to the vision, right? So if there's this new manager listening right now, and we've talked about a lot of things, but let's talk to that new manager right now. What's the simplest way to explain connecting culture to vision? How do they do that?
Well, I'm beating the dead horse here, but that mission statement becomes one of the primary things that they need to learn.
Yeah.
We tend to look at leadership positions, or we're going to put Joe or Sally in this position because of seniority or because of skills that they have or knowledge that they have. But leadership is a completely different skill set. So, what have we done to this manager to make sure that they're successful? How have we trained? What kind of training have we offered them to become leaders? And really, it starts in the onboarding process where you're starting to learn what the company culture is like right there. So leadership starts during onboarding. How am I going to adapt my goals to the company's goals? Is there a disconnect there, or can I directly engage myself with with those goals or that mission? And it's a growth mindset, if you will, rather than that fixed mindset. Or I've arrived, I've been here 28 years, I'm in a leadership position now. What doesn't mean you're good at it,
Yeah.
you know?
What's your mission statement? What so for Full Throttle, what is your mission? I mean, I'm sure you have a team and things of that nature. What is the mission statement that you live by? What's the vision?
Well, the short form of it is uh, training leaders to facilitate connecting culture to the vision was the bottom line. Giving leaders the tools and skills to create that culture, like I alluded to a few minutes ago, of I get to go to work instead of I have to go to work. And as soon as a leader starts getting to the point where they have what's a the I don't know if it's Peter Drucker or somebody span of control. As soon as you start having more than 7 people that you're in charge of, you're not going to see them on a daily basis. So how do I impart that through the layers of leadership to get down to the basic employee or basic team members? And it's what I'm trying to do is give them the knowledge, skills, and ability to deal with that on a daily basis. And that's kind of a long-winded mission statement, but the short form is how do I get these people excited and engaged?
All of that. What are some of these skills? I know you mentioned knowledge, you mentioned skills. Like, so what are some of those tactical things that you believe a leadership possess in the world of leadership, and not just like in the corporate world, but just like in general? What are some of those skills that you would say that are like the top? Let's give the top three that you would
Yeah,
say.
I'm gonna go a route that a lot of people don't think about, but it's acknowledging the work that's being done, acknowledging them either face to face or in front of groups. It's showing gratitude. Thank you for getting that in on time, type thing. It's uh, it's a positive way of dealing with the employee or the team member. Um, and the main one I would say is making sure that you're showing gratitude and being positive with your leadership. The skills, there's all kinds of skills. I talked about that MVP program. I've alluded to making sure that everybody trusts you, that everybody is clear. There's clarity on the mission. Everybody's aligned with that mission. And you do that by um, staying in contact with them. Uh, there's a Japanese term, Gemba walks. Get out on the shop floor and see what's going on. Toyota uses it. You can get data and statistics, but it doesn't show engagement and culture. So you've got to get out and make those personal contacts and build those relationships.
That's a huge takeaway for me because I think about the word gratitude a lot. I'm not sure if you're a man of faith. I am, and I'm big on giving my gratitudes on a day to day, and I really do believe that to be a pillar of leadership. because you are, and it's just grateful to be able to serve, grateful to be able to do these things. You know what I mean? And I love that you put that out there because I know I say it a lot on the podcast, and it's I know my listeners are probably like, "Ah, yeah, here we go again." But
Well,
I'm telling you, it
you're
is
exactly
a
right. Yeah.
superpower.
Yeah. Yeah, and your faith can have something to do with it. Do unto others as you have others do unto you, instead of do unto others before they do it to you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I want to jump into, I want to get them a tangible example of like pressure because that's something that doesn't really get spoken about a lot is those actual like real pressure moments, right? And so I want you to touch on like talk about like a pressure moment that you had maybe early in your career or maybe even going through now, and set the frame, right? Like where were you, what was at stake, and who was involved, and how did you get through that pressure situation as a leader?
Well, the most obvious ones are flying related, or like I said earlier, you can't pull over to the side of the road. That pressure taught me some things that are readily usable as a leader. And one of the things is when in aviation, when an emergency happens, a lot of times your initial reaction is, "Hey, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to shut this engine down, I got to do all these things." When in fact, you need to slow down to speed up, and that means sit back and gain some perspective. And now in the Air Force, we used to have a saying, you have an emergency, something happens, reach up and punch the clock, you know, because it delays that initial gut reaction. Because there's been times in aviation where wrong engines have been shut off. That Air India accident might be a great example of that. If you can just slow down and think, okay, and then have a process in mind of how we react to this. I have to keep flying, aviate. I have to keep navigating. I have to avoid the mountains, and then I have to communicate. Hey, I've got a problem. And then I can start taking care of the problem. So that applies to business as well. Too often something happens and there's immediate. And I'll give you an example. We were having trouble discipline wise with a captain one time, and as an assistant fleet captain, as soon as I heard the report that this captain was doing this certain thing, I said, let's fire him. We need to fire him. Well, I mentioned Tom Kemp's name before. He said, whoa, 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 let's think about this for a second. We at least need to get his side. We need to analyze what the situation was he was in, because you can't pull over the side of the road. I keep beating that up. And when we did bring him in and he explained it, the reason he broke a rule or broke uh, a procedure was the very fact that that procedure didn't apply in that situation. So he had to adapt. And so instead of firing him on the spot, getting that extra time to think it through and get his input and all the inputs, and come to find out, we probably would have all made the same decision that he did. You know,
Yeah, that is a
and I
that's a
think
pressurized
that
situation. I
one,
appreciate you
if I
sharing
can
that.
go a little bit further with that one, we ended up having to defend it. What it was, he departed out of Seattle. There was a pressurization problem, um, and he was dealing with it while still trying to fly south to Los Angeles. Portland was the closest airport to him, but what he decided was to turn around and come back to Seattle. And the thought process that he went through was, you're supposed to land at the nearest suitable airport. Well, it can be argued that Portland was closer, but he had just taken off out of Seattle. He knew all the weather conditions. It was his home base, and it took some time to reconfigure the airplane to land. And by the time he did all those things, it was about the same time as it would have taken to go into Portland. But there had to be a different transition there. So we had to support him on that, and I'm glad we did, because he made all the. I would have done the same thing.
So he made all the right moves.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he made all the right moves,
There's
but
more details to it than that, but that's the gist of it. And at a high level of trying to explain to non-aviators, I think that I think you get the gist of it.
yeah, and, we talked about it earlier, inputs. When you get the inputs, it allows you to make decisions that
Right.
are meaningful.
Yeah.
But if you
Well, and
didn't get that input, you
that was a
know
learning process for me. I'd help those decisions that I watched of the people who were above me. They were they were like mentors. I could go to them
yes,
anytime. Then too often in a company, you don't have somebody that you can go to. Don't have a higher up that will coach you or be a mentor for you. You're on your own to learn the lessons the hard way. Well, why not go to Dorian, who has all this experience, has screwed up so many things and is still successful, and learn what he learned so I don't make the same mistake. I think mentorship and coaching are so important.
so important. I don't disagree. I
Yeah.
don't disagree. But Dennis, we're gonna get into our final four. These are the final four questions that I am now asking every guest because I believe them to be interesting, fun, and we can learn from it. So the first question for you is, what's a leadership myth that you can't stand and why?
I think the fact that some people feel like everything has to flow through them, all the decisions are theirs. Um, uh, that that and that I always have. No, I'll change my mind on that. I think the fact that I'm in this position, I can't be wrong, is a myth. You can certainly be wrong. You can certainly, and if you're of that mindset, you're going to end up being that prototypical um, micromanager. You know, I have to make all the decisions. Well, all you've done is shut down all the other inputs. So I think that fact that the myth that a leader has to be right on everything or has to know everything. That's not true.
Awesome. Awesome. Who's your favorite leader in history and why?
Wow. Um, I'm going to go back to Abraham Lincoln. And what an example he set. He didn't get a his staff, his secretaries for war, and he didn't get them. They were. What's that book that was written? Um, I can't remember, but he assembled people that would tell him to his face that he was wrong or that this was not right. This was you weren't afraid to speak up. Seward is one of them, the Secretary of State, I think. Seward's Folly, the guy that ended up buying Alaska. So, but he was a he. There were people on his uh, what do you call it? His Secretary of Staff, his department heads, um, that felt like they should have been elected president, and he narrowly was elected president. But yet he assembled a staff that would tell it like it is, and that he could give and take with. So, bottom line, Abraham Lincoln. He caught me by surprise on that one, but I think
Awesome.
that's a good answer.
No, it's your answer, so
Yeah.
I think it's good too. Next question. What's one piece of leadership advice that you received that changed the way that you lead?
I'm going to go back to the that Navy SEAL slogan that or saying that I had of you have to slow down to speed up. You know, don't make snap decisions, even if you're under pressure and that decision has to come right now or fairly quick. You have to slow down to speed up.
Awesome. Awesome. And last one. How can our listeners begin to think like a leader today?
Just keep in mind that you need a continuous improvement process in place. You need to have that growth mindset. I need to read as much. I need to go to as many workshops and uh, retreats to learn from other leaders, and never stop learning. Uh, I mean, for me, I'm a baby boomer, you know, uh, dealing with Gen Zs, Gen Xs, Gen As, millennials, all these. Every one of them needs to be treated differently. Now, if we're attacking a machine gun nest, yeah, Dorian do this, Dennis do that. That's no doubt about that. But most of the time, you just need to slow down to speed up, and to uh, take the inputs, and get yourself a mentor and um, a growth mindset to continue getting better at being a leader.
Before you go, and I just want our listeners to, whether you're driving in a car, whether you're listening, watching on Facebook, whatever it is, don't just write down, what you heard. And I want to make that clear. Write down the thoughts that you are having because of what you heard. I really want to make sure that you do this because that's how we learn.
How it
And our
challenged you,
whole
right?
thing, huh?
Yeah. How it challenged your thinking today. Right?
Yes, exactly. And so, first, Dennis, I do appreciate you. All right. Tell the people where they can find you real quick so they can
Well, my
find you on the
website is
platforms.
fullthrottleLeadership.com, and I'm on LinkedIn and all the social media. And one of the better things that I have out there is I put out a weekly newsletter that gets a lot of good followings on it. A lot of people are following it. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. And of course, the link will be in the show notes as well. If you got value out of this, subscribe, share it with one person who you believe needs a standard. Dennis, thanks again, man. I do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on here. It was a good discussion. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, man. Bye bye.